Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Greetings and salutations. A warm welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. And a big thank you to listener James Hill, who recently said to me, Neil, you need to get this podcast on YouTube. To which I replied, are you mad? I mean, put an audio-only podcast on a video channel. But little did I know that some people prefer to have an open tab and just listen to podcasts that way. So as a result, all these shows will also now be available on YouTube, as well as Stitcher, Tune Radio, iTunes, and all the usual places. But if, like me, you've been experimenting with smart home tech, you'll love tonight's guest. But before we begin, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think is the single biggest threat to your home? Now, if you've just shouted crime as you sit there proudly monitoring your CCTV footage, you might be in for a big surprise. So Notion is a hockey puck-sized sensor that uses stick above their doors, below sinks, next to lights, and many, many more applications to monitor their home while they're away. Now, these tiny sensors connect to an iOS or Android app that will ping users when doors are left open, lights are left on, water leaks, smoke alarms are going off, etc. Perfect for guys like me who leave the lights on just before I'm about to go away on holiday. But having learned how Notion has been on an incredible startup story that includes graduating from TechStars, Kickstarter campaigns, and raising $10 million in funding, and is also using this money to partner with insurance companies to actually lower costs for their policyholders, I just had to get them on the show today. So buckle up, hold on tight, so I can beam your ears all the way to Colorado so we can speak with Brett Jurgens, the co-founder and CEO of Notion. So a big warm welcome to the show. Before we get started, can you just tell me a little about what is Notion and also what problems does it solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we see Notion as really a solution to help people simplify their lives. We started out with a concept around a smart smoke alarm and really thought that the bigger opportunity was kind of the whole home. And as we saw different people living their lives at different ages, different stages in their lives, there were different things that they cared to know about what was going on, whether you're single living in an apartment or have a family or potentially want to monitor a vacation home or an elderly parent. There was this need for kind of what we thought of as complete or whole home awareness. And we really wanted to create a user experience that was kind of as easy as an iPhone, but for the home, in the device that we ended up building to provide for complete home awareness. And so what we've done is we've built a single device, a multifunction sensor that can be very easily installed anywhere that you can think of, peeling an adhesive off the back, sticking it to a door, sticking it near a toilet, to be able to monitor, again, pretty much anything you can think of. So every single sensor we make is the same. We don't make different sensors for different use cases. And that really allows people to just focus on what they most care to be aware of, what they want their home to sort of start to do for them. So things like water leaks, doors opening, garage doors opening, monitoring liquor cabinets, gun safes, medicine cabinets, maybe children not getting in them, or maybe an elderly parent getting in them every day, right? How you interpret that data is really important. All that information is then sent to you as a user, to your smartphone, custom alerts, all kinds of those things that we're capable of doing. And then we're also starting to work on some pretty fun integrations with some of the other leading, kind of smart home IoT companies out there.
So just to help listeners understand exactly how it works as too, and the technology involved with it, I mean, how does Notion work, and how do users actually get to interact with the product and receive those notifications? So what's the tech behind it?
Yeah, so it really starts with this multifunction sensor. Yeah. And the installation of just sticking it to a door allows you to know when a door opens, but you get the residual benefits of all of the other sensors inside. So there's multiple different sensors working in that device to tell us all kinds of things about what's going on. That same sensor can tell you, as an easy example, the temperature of the room, a smoke alarm going off, all kinds of things kind of in the surrounding environment. All of that data is then gathered and then passed to you through the user into a mobile app where you would get push alerts if a temperature is too high or too low. You would get an alert if there was a water leak, if a sensor detects that, or if your garage door is open after you've left home. All of those kinds of things are probably some good examples of sort of what you could use Notion for. Sensors, back-end, data analytics, and then mobile app really is kind of how you should look at how the kind of our entire platform really works from an end user's perspective.
So how did the idea of Notion come about? I mean, when did that idea start to become a reality for a tangible company? I'm interested in where the inspiration came from.
So my co-founder's name is Ryan, and Ryan and I, we grew up together. We've known each other since we were 4 years old. Ever since high school, we've been thinking about starting a company together, and just really interested in entrepreneurship and technology, and never knew what that was going to end up being. But one day, Ryan had a smoke alarm that was going off. Luckily, it was just a low battery, but it was beeping every 30 seconds. But Ryan happened to not be home. Like most of us, we go to a job and we're not home all day. And the other, kind of funny and maybe somewhat unfortunate part of the story is he also had a new golden retriever puppy that was at home. And so he comes home and this poor dog is freaking out, right? This smoke alarm's been beeping all day and this dog's been freaking out. So he calls me up and he says, let's make the world's best smoke alarm. And this was before Nest had come out with their smart smoke alarm Protect. So we set off down the path of starting to interview a bunch of people. We didn't go build anything, but we started asking questions. And we quickly sort of ran into a few things. One, we thought the smoke alarm would be $150 and smoke alarms are 10 or 15. So pretty big premium price. We also thought there'd be a lot of regulatory issues we'd have to kind of get through to prove the alarm worked every time. Yeah. And we also heard from a lot of people that most of them had never really bought a smoke alarm. They had used the ones that were in the places they moved into. And so we weren't sure what the demand would be for this device that you really don't get daily value from. I mean, it's a valuable technology, but you don't interact with it daily. But number 4 was people kept saying, but we love the idea. We'd love to not have to have a traditional home security system that's really expensive to know things that are going on in our home when we're out there. And that is when we took the next step to say, can we have a little device that sits next to the alarm you already have that hears it and then sends the signal out? And when we said that, people started to tell us about all the other things in their home that maybe we could build a little sensor for that they could use to monitor something that was important to them given their life situation. And ultimately, we came to then kind of a third iteration and the conclusion that a single device that did all of these things would really give us kind of the best user experience. So that's kind of the steps we went through and sort of, starting out in a little bit of a different place than where we ended up.
So once you'd got that idea and it evolved into something slightly different, you then got involved with TechStars. I mean, what was your experience over there at TechStars and how did that 3 months help you build that company that you've got today?
Yeah, so Ryan and I had 2 other team members at the time that we applied for TechStars. And from our perspective, we're from Denver, Colorado. We applied to the Boulder program. We knew we were going to build Notion here in Colorado and keep it here. And so our big effort with TechStars, or our big purpose, was to really grow our network. And we more than accomplished that goal. In the first month, TechStars actually had us go through what they call mentor madness. And we met about 150 mentors in a month period of time that, in a good way, tore up the idea. Really critical thoughts, really good conversations about how we were thinking about the business model and the technology and the user experience. And they brought in all these resources to help us really think through and push us to be better. And so that was pretty amazing. We then spent the next month, kind of the middle month, really working on the product, working on, taking all of that information and, kind of changing some of the assumptions and really establishing the business a little bit better. And then the final month we made the crazy decision in the final month to actually launch a Kickstarter campaign during TechStars.
Wow.
So our time, we had very little time. We were pretty busy, but so we spent TechStars, I think, well. I think we really utilized it, but it was an incredible experience to help us really expand our network, and it's since expanded far beyond just the Boulder program, given kind of their worldwide reach. So again, Ryan and I, we didn't have the kind of big, broad tech industry connections coming into this. Neither of us had that experience. We didn't live in the Bay Area and work for Google. We didn't do any of those kinds of flashier things. And so for us, that was a big piece of this, and that they definitely delivered on that.
So when you're working in that environment for 3 months, I would imagine it's quite intense over there at TechStars, but equally you're surrounded by like-minded people that are on their own journeys. Did you find yourself trying to compete with those other people, or was it more being inspired by them?
I would say no real competition that was unfriendly. I think there was some kind of friendly weekly competition. And I think one of the things TechStars does a good job of is helps companies get in the mindset of setting goals, breaking those goals down, and being able to accomplish things on a weekly and monthly basis. When there's so many things to do as a startup, sometimes it's tough to kind of really narrow things down and focus. And I think that was one of the things they did. So on a weekly basis, we'd really celebrate everybody's wins. But I would say 90% of it is just extremely collaborative. And it's super helpful to see, there were 13 companies in that cohort with us in that class. And it's incredible to be able to have, 12 other case studies that you get to know the people and the problems and why they're having the problems and the personalities and the reactions to things so intimately. It really helps to inform, what we're doing as well. You really learn a lot from everybody else there. And everybody's really open and transparent about what's going on. And I think that's one of the most helpful pieces. When I say expanded our network, that was one of the big areas that it was amazing to see that. I think everybody in an entrepreneurial seat is curious and is hungry for knowledge and is hungry for a better way. And we're constantly thinking about that stuff. And to have those examples be so close in the same room with you for 3 months was pretty amazing.
I'm curious, if I ask you to look back now, what did those early days of your company look like and compare it to now, after TechStars? How's Notion evolved further into a company from what it is today?
Yeah, so, we have obviously grown headcount. Yeah. But I think that, back in TechStars, I think that we were really just thinking about the user and the user experience and having this be kind of a consumer product. And I don't think in a lot of ways we were looking as big as we are now. Like, I don't think we were looking at potentially being able to change the insurance industry. I don't think we were looking at things on more of a global scale. We have a big partnership in another country right now that's been really fun and exciting for us. And so I think that's one of the things that from some of the mentors, it really started to push us further down the path of what Notion really could become. Not just a little gadget you put in your home, not just a little sensor, but how you actually turn Notion into something that is incredibly impactful and meaningful for what we hope to be millions of people. I think that changed kind of the mentality and the culture in a really positive way, right? I think it made it something that we, not that we couldn't have been proud of it before, but it's really started to become something where we really think we have a shot at becoming a pretty big company. I think back in TechStars, it was like, what do I have to get done today? And so I think that's one of the changes that I think I see, at least from my seat as the CEO. And the other thing that I think we pride ourselves on, at least we try really hard to do this, is we really see Notion as a platform, not just in the sense of the product and the data and all the stuff we're doing with the technology, but as a platform for employees, right? We have a lot more people now than we did, and we'll add a lot more in the next year and after that. And, not everyone will stay here forever, But everybody that comes through Notion, we really want Notion to be a platform for all of our employees to learn, to grow, to excel, to own their work, to have a place where people love to come to. And me speaking a little bit personally, I didn't have a lot of great cultural experiences in previous jobs. And so for me, that was one of the most important things. And I think Ryan and I have, I think we've done a really good job at least making a huge effort to really care about people. And that's not just, again, customers, but the people that really make Notion a business. This is no longer my company. This is no longer Ryan and I's company. There's an incredible amount of work being done by everybody else, and it's now our company. And I think that's a special place for us to have kind of taken Notion to.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want to concentrate too much on your past because you've got so much going on at the moment, which we'll get to in a moment. But you did mention there, during that 3-month intense period at TechStars, that you started a Kickstarter campaign on the side. I mean, is that something you would recommend to anyone else? Did you regret it after you'd done it? Or did it turn out to be a blessing in disguise?
Yeah, no regrets on doing it, that's for sure. I think that you can always ask yourself questions about, was the timing right? If we would have waited and spent more time planning, could it have been a bigger campaign? Blah, blah, blah. Like what we came to the decision on, and we actually decided a month before we launched that we were going to launch. So what I would say is, we, in a month period of time, aligning everything, including a PR campaign and design and shooting. We actually shot 2 videos because the first one was shot when we had our first company name, and we changed our company name in the middle of planning. So I would recommend not having to reshoot a video, but that's a different story. So I think what it did for us is we realized how fast we could move on something that was big if we wanted to. And I think we learned fairly quickly what did and didn't work based on moving that fast. And the other decision that we came to was, at the time that you're in TechStars, you've got 150 mentors looking at you, and then you've got all these other companies and mentors paying attention to you that came out of other classes, that are in other programs. So there's this whole community that's watching you while you're in TechStars. And we thought, well, what a better time to do this, to get the word out, to use people from the likes of the Foundry Group and the founders of TechStars to help post socially about a Kickstarter campaign. What better time to do that when everybody's eyes are on you already and they're already thinking about you a little bit? And so that's kind of why we made that decision versus waiting and giving ourselves more time to plan. We just went in and did it. And so I think there was a lot of important lessons. Would I recommend doing it during TechStars versus waiting and doing it after? To me, I don't think it really matters. I mean, we felt incredibly busy, but it became this kind of galvanizing learning thing that we came out of it, and we hit demo day with, a great live campaign and proof of people actually buying and wanting Notion. Like, what's the point of TechStars if it's not to grow your business, grow your mentor network, and actually basically launch a product and be able to successfully sell and market it? I mean, we kind of did the whole thing in a 3-month period of time, and it was incredible. I mean, we ended up doing 280,000 in sales. The bigger campaigns out there are over $1 million. Yeah. If we would have done over $1 million, would that have totally changed our ability to be successful as a company versus the $250,000 that we did? No, I really don't think so. To us, it was about learning and about product feedback, so those are some of the comments that I would make. But I think the ability to move fast and learning how fast you can move and how effective you can be when you just go at something was a really great lesson for us to learn.
Absolutely. I would have loved to have spoken to you, though, just the day before you went into TechStars and the day you left, to see how much your mind had soaked up there and how much you'd learnt along the way. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, my tone may have been a little different if you would talk to me in the middle of the Kickstarter campaign, but I'm really happy about it now, even though it was a bit of a stressful time. But again, no regrets on doing it, and I think it was a good moment for us, kind of looking back.
So here we are in 2017. So how many people are currently using Notion? And are there any major success stories in terms of Notion monitoring and saving homeowners that serious hassle that you set out to achieve?
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, we have thousands of people just in the U.S. using the product. We have at this point we have calculated that we have saved homeowners well over $1 million in losses.
Wow.
A lot of those have to do with water leaks. Most people think that they need a security system. The biggest threat to your home is actually a water leak. By far the most high frequency insurance claim out there. So when we think about that aspect, I think it's kind of a fun statistic and kind of an amazing statistic to think that where we started was, we just wanted people to be able to know what was going on. And where we're really going with this is we really want to change what your home is actually capable of doing for you. We want to have that level of an impact where we can have a very major, kind of financial impact, and not just the peace of mind impact, sort of where we started. So that's a pretty great statistic. And I think when we think about the next year and when we think about the next 3 to 5 years, what impact we could have, getting into millions of homes and having that same kind of an impact, that's hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in change. And I think that's why you're seeing so many insurance companies get really interested in IoT technologies like this for all kinds of properties, right? The home, obviously a focus of ours for now, but I think all kinds of properties, you're going to see major kind of sweeping changes because of this ability to finally understand the physical world better.
I also believe Notion has just raised a big Series A funding, something in the region of $10 million, I believe. So how are you going to put that to use? I'm curious on how that's going to help you actually improve and how it's going to be used throughout Notion to take you into those millions of houses that we've been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of it is some product improvements, right? I think anytime you launch a first version of a product, it's not nearly as good as you hope that it is. So we do have some really great product improvements coming soon. Some of the integration partnerships that I talked about, I think are going to be really important for our users. We're really excited. We don't claim to own every experience in the home, right? And every great product in the home is definitely not under Notion's umbrella. There's a lot of great products out there. And I think there's a lot of, kind of those 1 + 1 = 3 scenarios when we start to think about integrating with some of those other IoT devices. And then potentially services as well that could be provided given what data we're collecting for, on behalf of our customers. The other things that we're really starting to think through are, just expansion in general. Some of that will go towards some sales and marketing efforts. And then I think, we've talked a bit about insurance. We have partnerships to date with 3 of the top 5 insurance companies in the country, amongst others. And so really expanding on that channel effort. But I think there are some really, really interesting and big opportunities in a couple of kind of tangentially related channels that I think our technology plays really well in, that have been somewhat traditionally underserved. And so I think some of that is just kind of a general expansion for us. So those are a few of the kind of key uses of that funding. You
really do seem a natural fit for insurance companies there. You did mention a water leak is the biggest threat to people's homes rather than crime, which is a big eye-opener for me. But I'm curious, how does the sensors actually pick up a water leak? Because a water leak could happen anywhere in your home, couldn't it, sir? How does that work?
Yeah, it definitely could. So, we work with our insurance partners to really define based on especially geographically, right? If you think about a home in, say, San Francisco or the UK or, Texas, you're going to have a different profile. A home in Texas likely is much larger than an apartment in San Francisco. But an apartment building in San Francisco, if there's a water leak, it may flood 3 or 4 apartments below it. So we really work with insurance partners and then customers to help define the best placement for sensors. The sensor actually picks up a water leak when it comes in contact with water, right? So placing one in your kitchen would give you the ability to monitor for your sink, your refrigerator, freezer, your dishwasher, all of those things in one place. Water heaters are traditionally a major issue as well. So placing one in a basement or a crawl space, wherever a water heater may be, is a big deal too. So I think some of what we're doing with our insurance partners is helping through them and with them educate consumers on where perils may likely occur. Part of this also, though, is temperature sensing. We really want to get to a place where we can be preventative. We want to get to a place where we can actually help insurance companies and help customers understand how they can make their homes safer in a preventative way. So temperature is kind of a good start to that, where we can tell you, hey, it's 55 in your home or a vacation home. You may have a pipe that's going to freeze sooner or later. You need to take a look at this before anything happens. But longer term, as we think about the data that we're collecting and the events that we can start to profile, what are we going to start to see? What are those needles in the haystack where we can start to actually help insurance companies and their customers understand the steps that they could take and the things they could do to prevent water leaks altogether? It's ultimately our belief that there shouldn't be water damage in homes. Pipes are going to break, toilets are going to overflow, you're going to have water heaters that break, but they should not cause damage with the technology that's available today. And so that's kind of where we're starting with our water leak detection capabilities. And there's a lot of work being done on some other concepts around understanding flow, understanding how we could potentially shut things off automatically. There's a number of companies doing those kinds of things as well. So we're looking at some partnerships on those fronts and some of our own technologies. So lots of work being done on that.
It certainly seems that you guys can really impact the way the insurance industry operates, even disrupt it to a certain degree. But what other kind of data do you think is useful to insurance companies? And essentially, how do you think Notion will compile that info and present it to them?
Yeah, so I think that, from a data perspective, beyond just letting insurance companies know what's happening in the properties that they insure in real time, I think that aspect alone can impact the claims process. Sure. I think we can impact the ability for an insurance company to know the severity of a claim before a claims adjuster has to go to a home, and even automate that process to where you wouldn't even need to send an adjuster, because we have enough data to profile that event well enough to understand the damage. I think that's a place we could get to. I think there's a lot of other things that we're paying close attention to. We have actually developed, even though we're still a small company, a big data science team. We just recently hired the former head of data products and data science from Twitter in order to help us really expand upon our data analytics capabilities. And some of the things that we're looking at are, we get a lot of people that say, oh, it's kind of like the OBD2 device that you can plug into a car and you could get a safe driver discount. That's kind of where we're going with this. What's a safe home look like? What does a safe homeowner look like? And there's very little intuition around that. But some of the things that we're starting to pay attention to are things like appliance usage. Does that have an impact on how many water leaks may happen if you use appliances more? Occupancy is a big one. If your front door, your garage door opens 10 times more than the average family, let's say, you may have a lot more people living in your home. Is there actually a higher risk there? There are some hypotheses around today that we need to collect real data on in order to prove or disprove and actually help both insurers and their customers understand how we can help them de-risk their home. And then I think there's a whole other level of this which starts to become more regional and macro level data. If you think about Notion being in 50 million homes, what could we do with that level of information to help even things like home builders build homes better? Appliance companies make their appliances less risky, if you want to think of it that way. And this all goes back again to your home doing more for you, to simplifying your life, to making sure that eventually maybe Whirlpool comes out with a technology where if there is a pipe that breaks, they can shut that pipe off themselves, right? Through the technology that they start to incorporate, and some of the safety aspects they may start to incorporate because of the data we collect. So I think this goes beyond insurance, but it really hits at the root of the cause and a lot of the perils that you see. So there's kind of a lot of intertwined industries here that go into the home, all the way from the building of that home to the ongoing maintenance and then the appliances that you put into the home.
I know it's early days at the moment, but do you have any feedback from your customers about how Notion saved homeowners money, hassle in property damages, all due to the detection from a Notion sensor? Have you had that kind of feedback yet?
We have a lot of that feedback. We have a lot of feedback around water leak events, just given the frequency at which they do tend to occur at a higher frequency. And then we also have a lot of stories that have come in around some of the things that traditionally you wouldn't think of for home security. And I mentioned some of these use cases previously, but things like liquor cabinets and gun safes and medicine cabinets, some of those types of things, being able to understand those dangerous aspects, dangerous products in a home. A lot of the stories we get are from families. As you could imagine, a lot of people that have recently purchased a home that have children are in much more of a, for lack of a better way to put it, kind of a peace of mind mentality than people in their early 20s living in an apartment, thinking a little bit less probably about their property. We start to see a lot of these really impactful, meaningful stories from, say kind of late 20s to 45-year-olds that are more family-oriented in a lot of cases.
Now, Notion has already evolved in the last few years since it was very first created, but how do you see it evolving further in the next 5 to 10 years? Is it just getting into more homes and working with more insurance companies and adding more sensors, and also into businesses as well, would you say?
That's a big part of the focus. I mean, I think that's a big part of the focus for anyone that we compete with as well, is just getting to a point where something like Notion is a mass market product. And, I think that is a big focus. I think looking at businesses is definitely something we're interested in doing. We think there's a lot of applications beyond just the home setting. I also think that where you'll see us take Notion is there's an incredible amount that we can do that can come from other places, especially a mobile app, that don't necessarily have to do with hardware. And our hardware is really the foundation of what we've set up for now, right? That's collecting the data. It's allowing us to provide purposeful information to people at the right times. It's allowing us to collect this data and information and, kind of in aggregate and anonymously help insurance companies better understand how they could insure homes. That's all stuff we're going to continue to do. But, I don't think ultimately we want to force people to have to buy, the latest and greatest Notion sensor every year. Yeah. Our plan is to really utilize kind of this powerful hardware and add more to it for people over time, even though it's going to be the same hardware, and really enhance what we do through integrations, through a whole lot of user experience improvements and additions through the app. And then there's a lot of service opportunities that I think are really, really impactful for homeowners and small businesses as well, that can be added to a platform like this. So I think you'll see us kind of expand the offering for people, but not necessarily go down the path of making, a new hardware device every year.
So do you only serve the US at the moment, or do you serve internationally?
At this point, we're really focused on the US. Yeah. We are looking at a couple of international opportunities, and we are right now also, we have launched in Japan as well, with a very large strategic partner. As you can imagine, it's hard for a startup to think internationally, too early, but there are some very interesting opportunities as we look out internationally that a lot of the other companies in the IoT space have either avoided by choice or been forced to avoid due to technology limitations. So we do see some pretty big opportunities elsewhere as well.
So if anyone's listening that's really interested in finding out more about everything we've spoken about today, could you just point them in the direction of your website and also some contact details for a member of your team if they just got any further questions about what we've talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is getnotion.com, getnotion.com. And in terms of an email address to reach us, hello@getnotion.com. Is a great place to start. We also have a number of videos, some testimonials, a lot of technical information, and a good help center on our website. So if there's anything else on that front that people are interested in, our website's a pretty good source. But we love to talk to people in person, and we love to get emails and interact with customers and prospective customers. So reach out to us. We'd love to chat.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on today. I think it's a fantastic story you've got there, and certainly a source for inspiration for anybody listening on their own startup journey too. With water leaks being the biggest threat to a safe home, there's a big argument as well that there's more benefits to a system like Notion versus those traditional security monitoring systems. It certainly made me think, and I'm sure it has people listening. So a big thank you for coming on today.
Thanks so much, Neil. Really appreciate it.
Thinking about it, maybe we shouldn't be too surprised to hear that the single biggest threat to our homes is actually water damage. And yet CCTV seems to be the tech that most people invest in. Do you remember when the iPhone first came out? The App Store was full of gimmicky apps such as spirit levels, virtual fires, and pretend to drink a pint of beer from their phone. But what happened next was software developers were then given the tools to create solutions to real problems. And after around 12 months of experiments, this helped people understand what they could really do with this technology. And then the platform evolved and apps began solving real problems. In many ways, I see the same similarities here with IoT. To begin with, people started asking Amazon Alexa to quote funny lines from films, or play their favourite song, or ask what the weather is. But we're now attempting to use this tech to solve real problems. And I love how Brett said that there is no reason now why a house should suffer water damage. The rise of inexpensive sensors could save you thousands. So a big thank you to Brett for helping me see things a little bit differently here, especially when it comes to smart home tech and IoT. And man, what an inspirational tech story too. But has anyone out there used Notion sensors? Please share your feedback by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes. Let's get sharing these stories together. But that's it for me. But don't worry, I shall return with another great guest and maybe even a diverse topic. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.